Hello, hello. I'm Denise. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll be discussing Married at First Sight, Season 12, the Where Are They Now episode. And I'm joined by my friend Shori, who's from Australia. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy!
And we start off with the ladies getting together to catch up on things. So we have Clara, Brianna, and Haley. And Brianna let us know that she and Vincent have been house hunting because after the experiment ended, they moved into Vincent's one-bedroom apartment while they house hunt. And Clara let us know that she and Ryan have been working on planning their vow renewal. And Clara has shared with us that she fell in love with a dress that cost $3,500. And she's concerned because with all of the expenses, she's pretty much gone over budget. And Brianna tried to encourage her by saying, well, maybe Ryan will buy the $3,500 dress for you, which, most of us doubt, but, when we do try to encourage each other that way. And one thing we learned from the discussion, and Shori, I want you to chime in on this, we learned from Clara and Brianna that their husbands keep in touch with Chris. Vincent talks to Chris, and Ryan talks to Chris.
Yeah, I don't see any benefit to Ryan having an ongoing friendship with Chris. I mean, Chris is so erratic. He says things that he doesn't really mean. So, is he a good friend for Ryan? I don't think so. I know they have a sort of bond because they met on the show, but Chris is just trouble, really.
Well, I was surprised because now we knew throughout the season that Vincent was good friends with Chris. We knew that. We saw that. But I was surprised that Ryan kept in touch because Ryan is supposed to be this guy who's about his Christian standards and high morals and integrity. So you would question, okay, if a guy is so upstanding, what would he possibly have in common with Chris?
Yeah,
and why would he even bother to keep in touch with Chris?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, remember when they were in Vegas and they had that argument in front of the sort of off-road vehicles? Chris was really rude to Clara and Virginia, and Eric saw some of it, but I don't think Ryan saw that. I don't think Ryan saw all of what Chris said to his wife.
He didn't. Ryan kept quiet, but Chris told Virginia and Clara where to get off.
Yeah.
He told them both.
That's right. He told them both off, and Eric arrived and he witnessed it, and he sort of stood up to Chris and said, hey, it's not acceptable or whatever. But Ryan didn't see all of that, although Ryan did see the way Chris behaved in the minivan. Remember that van trip back and Chris was shouting from the back seat? So Ryan, I know he's got a good heart, and Chris did apologise at dinner, so maybe Ryan thinks it's all in the past, but the way Chris kept on repeating bad behaviours after apologising, it sort of made his apologies meaningless, and I don't see much good in the friendship with him.
You know what? When it comes to Clara, Ryan is not going to be her knight in shining armor anyway. I mean, let's face it. This is a guy who went through the whole experiment, leaving her wondering how he really feels about her.
Yeah.
Clara didn't know how Ryan really felt about her. And as far as I'm concerned, she still doesn't know because we watched the reunion. And if not for the host, Kevin Frazier, pressing Ryan, forcing his hand, he wasn't going to tell Clara that he loved her. And I don't understand how do you get to the point where you broach the subject and have discussions about renewing your vows when the man has not said he loves her.
Yeah.
So what are they renewing?
No, that's a great point.
I mean, what's the purpose of having a different ceremony when everybody who was not at their wedding could see their wedding? It was televised. It's recorded. Everybody in the world can see their wedding. So I don't understand how it is that Clara keeps fooling herself, in my opinion. I think she's in denial. I think she's ignoring the red flags. I think she's not listening to her gut, because there's no way she could truly believe that Ryan is in love with her. He could love her just like he can love you and I, because, as a Christian, you love people based on principle. That's called agape love. But that eros love, that romantic love, I don't think he has it for her. Because if he did, as a man, Shorey, as a man, do you have to be forced?
No, certainly not, Denise. Certainly not. Like, it's something you should be enthusiastic about. If it's a girl that you like, you want to take things further, and not only that, they had all the opportunity. They were staying in the same bed, and they were married. Like, sure, some people mightn't want to consummate the marriage on the first night in a situation like this TV show, but so I think Haley and Jacob took to the second or the third night or something like that. But there was no reason for Ryan to be not wanting to have sex. It made no sense. And some Christians want to wait till they're married. They want to wait till they're married before having sex. Sure, but he was married, so there was no reason to wait any longer. And it made no sense. You can't say I need to wait when you're already married. That's
quite the opposite, right? Yeah. Quite the opposite, because once you're married, there's pretty much a duty.
Yeah.
To please your partner.
Yeah, that's right.
As a Christian, get married and not have sex. You're supposed to, because you're supposed to be fruitful. You're supposed to multiply. You're supposed to make babies. You're supposed to have a family. So
that's right.
If Ryan was in such a hurry and in such a rush and felt such a dire need to get married so as to sign up for and participate in this experiment, which, as you stated, is accelerated, okay, why would you not want to have sex, especially when the wife is so willing?
Yeah.
Because remember, Clara made it clear that she had been giving him fellatio.
That's right. She said. Yeah, that's right, didn't she? Yeah.
I don't know of any straight man who can take a lot of fellatio without taking it to the next level. I don't know of a straight man who can accept that and not take it to the next level on his own by himself.
Yeah,
when the woman is right there willing.
Yeah, it was strange.
So that's strange to me.
Yeah, it was strange. Yeah. I think all you can do is interpret. Possibly there's some issues or lack of commitment from Ryan. If he's attracted to her and she's there, it made no sense. And he's married, it made no sense to not have sex. It does almost raise red flags, you could say. No, it's strange.
And his feelings for her overall, he was not very transparent regarding his true feelings for her. Because like you said, if there was a reason that he didn't feel comfortable having sex with his wife in their marriage, he should have been able to put together a sentence to express that to her, to let her know where he stood and why.
Yeah.
But she was left wondering and hoping that he would come around, and that is not a really responsible and effective way to communicate with your spouse when you signed on for marriage.
Yeah.
And I defended Ryan in the beginning because people were mad at him. The viewers were questioning his sexuality and calling him out for not being willing to have sex with Clara when Clara let him know that she was willing. And I said, okay, he needs to go at his own pace. He's on his own schedule because we allow women to do that. Women, they go on their own schedule. You can't press a woman to have sex when she's not ready. So I gave him that in the beginning. But Ryan showed me too many things that made me question him. And that whole, as a man, you know whether you're in love or not.
Yeah.
As a man, you know whether you're falling in love or not. And when you have a woman who's right there with you, who's right there partnering with you, and she's willing, and she wants to be your mate, and you can't commit to her on the level that is expected in the experiment. It's not even on Clara. It's not even necessarily about Clara. She could have been with anyone. She would expect to know how he feels about her. Ryan wasn't very forthcoming.
No.
So Ryan has me questioning some things about him. And this whole vow renewal, why would you need to renew vows with a woman that you didn't want to have sex with? You told her not to tell anybody that whether you're having sex or not. And then you didn't tell her that you loved her. You had to be pressed by a host with cameras rolling to say, I love you. And even then, he said, I think I love you.
Yeah.
He never said he was in love with her. So, I mean, he skirted around it. And then this whole big show, we're going to do this on New Year's Eve. We're going to have this whole celebration. You already had all of that.
Exactly. They had a wedding, and it was a really nice wedding, considering it was organised during a pandemic and with other people organising it for them. But it was still a nice wedding, and yeah, that's done now. They've had that already. I don't know why they need to have another one.
It was televised. It wasn't like they went to the Justice of the Peace during the pandemic and people didn't get a chance to participate and they didn't get a chance to see. People thought their wedding is recorded. It is part of a high-ranked TV show. Anybody who wants to see it can tune in and look at it. They can go online and they can see their wedding.
Exactly. And then think of the expense. I mean, for the amount of money, they could travel across America and visit relatives and get to spend time with different parts of the extended family. That would be a better use. I can't remember, but it was a pretty expensive wedding. The venue.
$1,000. Their venue is with nothing. No decorations, no food, no drinks. Just the venue itself. $8,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. They could do so much more with that. And then it's partly because they want to have a massive wedding with 150 guests, like a Kardashian wedding.
Exactly. And do you think because they invite 150 people are going to come? No. Those 150 people, a lot of those people are still going to have problems because of the pandemic. Okay, some of those people are going to have other situations going on. Not everybody is going to be able to go where they are on New Year's Eve to ring in the new year and celebrate their wedding, which they already had on TV.
Yeah.
So to me, the vow renewal for Clara and Ryan is really, I think, Ryan trying to convince people that this marriage, this heterosexual marriage, is real, and I think it's Clara trying to convince people that she has a husband who loves her, who's in love with her.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think, I question both. I question for Ryan if this heterosexual marriage is real for him, and I question for Clara if she really truly believes and feels that she has a husband who is in love with her.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that.
I think it's showmanship.
Yeah. I think you make some good points there, Denise, because why else would they need to put on this big event when they've already declared their love in a personal sense with their vows, and then they've had the big wedding that the TV show put on for them? Yeah, I agree. It is unnecessary, and it does raise more red flags with regard to Ryan. There was the red flags with the sex, and now there are red flags about this this wedding number 2.
I think so. I really do. But we'll see how it goes with them. And I hate to question Ryan's sexuality, but he's given me cause to do that. And I don't like doing that because I try to take people at their word. But also, Ryan and Clara have decided that they won't be having kids for some years. Do you remember Ryan saying they weren't going to have kids for years?
Oh, I didn't remember that part. No, I missed that. Oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah. And my thing is, why are you trying to put that part off? Because as a Christian, okay, because Ryan pulls out that Christianity when it's convenient for him. As a Christian, if you jump into this experiment and marry a stranger at first sight, why would kids be years down the road for you?
Yeah.
I think that telling us that they won't be interested in having kids for at least a couple of years or whatever, I think that just gets us in the mindset of not expecting children from that union.
It's really
because I think if you hurry up and run down the aisle that fast to marry a stranger and you got 8 weeks to decide, why would you put off kids that much? I mean, if you're that ready to get married, you should be at least that ready to have some children. I mean, of course you take time to get to know each other, but a pregnancy in and of itself is 10 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was Eric or maybe Jacob or both that said they were looking to start a family soon because they were ready, So, and that's part of why you get married, to have the kids and build that next chapter. Yeah.
Wait years because you got to try.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that the one time you have sex you're gonna automatically get pregnant.
That's
you
right.
have to spend time trying to get pregnant, and then when you try to get pregnant, your pregnancy total is 10 months.
Yeah.
Down a year, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're already looking at least already down the road at least a year.
Exactly. I mean, and if they're going to have 2 kids or 3 kids, then we're looking at maybe a 4 or 5 year time frame from when the conception of the first one, maybe longer. So to push things off 3 years, it doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. So, and I'm glad I was able to share all of my thoughts with you about Ryan and Clara because I do like them. I think they're great people, and I do want to be fair.
Yeah.
But Ryan he gives me pause.
You explained that well because there are things that, as an observer, do seem concerning. I wish them well, and I guess time will tell what happens in 3 or 5 years down the track. Maybe we could move on to another couple, or perhaps we take up another couple in episode 2.
At the cat meetup, she was there with them, and they asked Haley what was going on with her, and Haley said that the reunion didn't sit well with her, because she felt that it was a hostile experience for her, and that she was excited to be going with Jacob to sign the divorce papers to officially end their marriage.
That's right. They had that outdoor meeting, and it was sort of awkward and you could almost say unproductive, like a lot of their relationship throughout the show. Haley seemed to want to sort of put the past in the past and just have a sort of friendly, or at least civil, relationship moving forward. But Jacob was sort of over it, and I think he thought Haley was giving a half-baked apology, but Haley maybe thought they both needed to meet in the middle, and it was really another example of how their communication styles are different, and they don't really get along anymore.
Well, I think that was real rich for Haley to come to my Jacob and say she didn't want there to be any animosity between them, as if she forgot how she treated him throughout the experiment. And this is one thing that I don't appreciate about Haley. She does not take accountability for her actions and the consequences that come as a result of her actions. I mean, Jacob does have a right to his feelings. He went into this marriage with high hopes, as did she.
Yeah.
But he was the one who was rejected on a daily basis. And I had a problem with some viewers feeling like Jacob was a sourpuss and he had a negative attitude. Who wouldn't have a negative attitude being rejected every day? And he was in this experiment for 8 weeks. And for 8 weeks, he was rejected despite all of his efforts, despite every exercise they went through and every activity that they engaged in. My Jacob was rejected every day, week after week, for 2 months. So, I mean, come on. Why would he want to feel good? And I think Haley realizes at this point she's, among the women, the most disliked person on season 12 among the women. You know, Chris, nobody comes close to Chris. But among the women, Haley is the villain. And she sees that, and she wants to try to do damage control. And if Jacob let her off the hook, then she could say, well, see, he doesn't have a problem with me. He's fine with me. So everybody else should like him. And I love the fact that my Jacob is true to himself. He's true to his feelings. And he let Haley know in no uncertain terms, there won't be any animosity between us. And we could have our awkward hellos when we get together with the group, but you and I will not be chums. And I'm glad he told her that. And then when she said, you know, that she, because she tried to deny saying that he didn't try, and he let her know that it was a personal affront to him for her to say that after only 3 or 4 days into the experiment that he didn't try when we saw him trying. He said he tried, and we know he did. But then she said, well, that was just what I felt in the moment. No, Haley, it was what she said. Haley was saying that he wasn't trying. Haley said that she was doing everything. Haley said she made all of the effort. Haley said she took all of the initiative. And then in the end, here comes Haley with the old switcheroo. Well, that's not really what I said. That's not how I felt. I just went with what I felt in the moment. No, because moments don't change truth, Haley. Okay? The truth remains the truth. That's today, that's tomorrow, that's next week. It doesn't matter about the moment. Yeah. Because when you're telling the truth, moments don't matter. The truth matters. And that's why I was so happy that when she said, well, we had good times, my Jacob hit her with his now world famous smirk. Because he wasn't, that's not his recollection. These good times that she spoke of, that wasn't his recollection. He went through 8 weeks of torment and torture. And it was an utter disappointment and a letdown. And like I said, you know, on Haley's end, to be fair, it was a disappointment to her as well, because I'm sure she went into it with high hopes. I'm sure she went into the experiment wanting to find, you know, the man of her dreams, the man she could fall in love with, build a marriage with, have a family with, and do all those wonderful things, you know, together. I know she wanted that. But the thing about it is, Haley is the one who made the choice. She's the one who rejects my Jacob. My Jacob did not reject her initially. She's the one who decided this marriage will not work. Yes. And so my Jacob has a right to his negative feelings. They're justified. But what say you, Shorey?
Well, I have mixed emotions, because I agree with you what you said then, that she was sort of trying to possibly restore her image with the viewers by seeming like she was reaching out and wanting to leave on good terms. But, you know, throughout the show, if we step back to the reunion, remember Jacob said, I asked you to teach me to dance, and she said, no, you didn't. So there's some things that were off camera that we don't really know who's telling the truth and who's lying, because we don't know if what Jacob said was a lie or what Hayley said was a lie there. And there were other examples where I think it was more a misunderstanding about that girls' night in Vegas, where Hayley thought it was a girls' night. She went out with the girls, then Jacob came along and saw them, and he felt he'd been betrayed. And then he called her a liar. And remember when they first arrived at the apartment, he sort of had a bit of a blow up, and he's waving his arms. He said, you're a liar, and you're high maintenance, and there's reality, and then there's Hayley's BS. He sort of unloaded a bit. He unloaded a bit on her. So I feel from her perspective it was sort of hard to, if she already had doubts about how she felt, or when she was confronted with Jacob sort of accusing her of things, saying she had a secret girlfriend, and so it would have made it hard for her to come back from. So I know a lot of people like to say that Hayley was sort of cold or didn't show affection or didn't try, but there were some mistakes Jacob made along the way too, which would have made it hard for her to feel like she could trust him or open up again. That's my thoughts on it.
But Hayley was inconsiderate to my Jacob. She was inconsiderate. I mean, now you can disagree with the way my Jacob handled certain situations. I think he handled everything right. I because you know I'm very biased when it comes to my Jacob. But I mean, if you were with your partner on your honeymoon and you found out that your partner went out and they met up eventually with the rest of the couple and you weren't included, that is a humiliating, demoralizing, or horrible thing to experience, and this is from your partner on your honeymoon.
Yeah, I know. I think I can understand him being upset when he first saw it, but he probably shouldn't have overreacted, and maybe he should have just approached him and said, hey, what's going on, guys? Or, I don't know. Or additionally, Hayley could have explained it better. Hayley could have explained it and said, it was a girls' night, and things changed over the night, so, you know.
But what explanation could someone give? What explanation could your partner give you for doing that? Because, first of all, it's your honeymoon.
Yeah.
Who needs a ladies' night when they're on their honeymoon? That's crazy to me. Like, if I'm on my honeymoon, when Jacob and I go on our honeymoon, there's not going to be a ladies' night.
Yeah.
Ladies' night is what you have when you're single or you've been married for a while.
Yeah.
And you've spent your time, your quality time bonding with your spouse.
No, that's a good point.
On your honeymoon, there is no such thing as a ladies' night. So the very concept was strange and out of place to me.
No, that's a good point.
Why would you need a ladies' night? But see, Hayley gives a lot of masculine energy to me. So just like I talked about Ryan, I'm going to talk about Hayley too. Okay, and this is just my opinion, and it's pure speculation, but Hayley gives a lot of masculine energy. She gives me gay gym teacher tease. That's what Hayley reminds me of, like gay gym teacher, because I don't know of any red-blooded heterosexual woman who's on her honeymoon who needs a ladies' night out. The ladies' night out failed because the rest of the women, aside from Paige, actually have husbands that they like, and they were on their honeymoon. So the other husbands were like, no, you know, you go out, hey, no, we're going together. Why? Because this is our honeymoon.
Yeah.
We're in Las Vegas on our honeymoon. So that's why the ladies' night fails, because you don't have a ladies' night when you are on your honeymoon. Okay, and when everybody's husband started showing up, Hayley was inconsiderate to my Jacob, because she should have immediately called him or just taken the elevator up to the room to say, hey, look, everybody else is down here. Do you want to come?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Denise. It was inconsiderate to not contact him and say, hey, everyone's here now, Vinny and Ryan or whoever's turned up, so come and join us, Jacob. But then, so she made mistakes, but then Jacob made a mistake by overreacting, and then not only did he call her a liar, but then he went on about this, you have a secret boyfriend. I mean, where did that come from?
There was a rumor, and it came out, it wasn't on the show, but there was a rumor that Haley had been involved with a guy just before the experiment. There was a rumor about Haley spending time with some guy at the bar during the honeymoon. So, I mean, there were situations and circumstances that made Jacob wonder aloud. And I want to be clear, he did not pull that out of the thin air.
Okay.
There were things that were said, and it was, and I believe Clara said something, and Virginia said something that led Jacob to believe that perhaps another man was in play.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Thank you for that extra context. I still think there's other things with Haley that are issues. She hadn't been in a relationship for 5 or 7 years. Remember, either she or her friend admitted that earlier in the thing.
7 years.
7.
Haley,
yeah. So when you take that 7-year situation, and there were a few other incidents, you could say, where Haley sort of conveyed some red flags of her own, because remember they all went on some trip that we saw highlights of on the reunion, where Haley was wearing a captain's hat, and they were in some seaside area, and Haley looks to the camera. They were filming it themselves, and Haley says, I'm here with the girls. I'm here with all the girls. This is all I need. I don't need anything else. It was almost like she was trying to leave a coded message as to she doesn't need a guy. Yeah.
And that was the first time, though. That was the second time Haley did that, because if you will recall, when Jacob and Haley were living in the apartment, and Paige was living in the apartment by herself because Chris refused to move in with her, Haley went out to Paige's apartment.
That's right, I remember.
And Jacob all alone that whole night.
Yeah.
And the show later showed a clip from Paige and Haley hanging out at Paige's apartment. And they were on camera taking selfies and everything, saying, oh, we're a better match. They should match us up together.
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of lesbian nonsense is this? Because, of course, Paige can tell these jokes, because Paige had been abandoned by her husband.
Yeah. Paige was joking, but Haley, I'm not sure.
Haley said this, like, oh, yeah, we're a better couple. Now, that is disrespectful. That is just because Paige at that time didn't have Chris, but Haley left my Jacob at the apartment all by himself the whole night. And Jacob wanted to talk with her that night, but of course, she didn't say that because he didn't want to have an argument. But he was fine with Haley going to visit Paige and spending some time with Paige, because of course she needed consolation. But he didn't think that Haley would spend the whole night with Paige. That, to me...
You make me laugh, Denise. I don't think it was the whole night, to be fair. I think it was like maybe midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I don't think it was the whole night.
It was in the wee hours. It was past midnight, because Jacob stopped waiting for her. He stayed up all night waiting for her.
Yeah.
And she had not come home.
Yeah.
So, she was with Paige, but they showed Haley and Paige joking, looking in the camera, oh, we would make a better couple And I'm like, come on, Haley, that is very, very disrespectful. Like, if my husband went out and he was hanging with the guys and they started taking selfies and my husband said that he and this man would make a better couple, I would not take kindly to that.
You're right. I agree, Denise. It was disrespectful, but it's hard to know if it was careless or it was a deliberate attempt for her to say, hey, this is the real me, this is the real Haley, and I want to share it with you.
At Jacob's expense. That's the problem. All of that came at Jacob's expense. So, while I understand that you don't agree with the way he handled situations, his feelings were justified. And remember, on the plane ride home from the honeymoon, Haley switched seats so she would not sit next to my Jacob.
Yeah.
So he had to ride home on the plane not next to her, knowing that she was on the same aircraft, sitting somewhere else because she didn't want to be with him. So not only was she rejecting him, but she was confronting him with the physical manifestation of what it means to be rejected. I will not even sit beside you. You will sit beside a stranger, just like Jacob told her about a hug. You will give a stranger a hug, but you won't give me one. She will sit beside a stranger on a plane, but she couldn't sit beside the man who was supposed to be her husband in the experiment.
Yeah.
So, again, my Jacob was justified because if I had a plane ride home from my honeymoon and my spouse didn't sit beside me, you darn right we'd have a big argument. We'd have a huge argument when we got home. Oh, she wouldn't have made coming through the door. It would have been on. It would have been happening, okay? But you say my Jacob didn't handle that right. He handled it much better and much more calm than I would have. Because that is very, very disrespectful. In public, in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And you're on a show.
Yeah, that's right.
So the cameras roll.
Yeah, would handle it differently, Denise. Sometimes I think maybe you have a bit of a temper as well. I'm not sure. It makes me laugh. But, yeah, I agree it was disrespectful. And in the early stages of a relationship, you don't want to be giving signals of rejection or walking away and I'm going to sit on the other side of the plane. It wasn't a good look. I agree. And it would have left Jacob feeling either confused or is she trying to say she doesn't want me? It's, it wasn't good.
And that you don't even like the person, like as a friend, because, I wouldn't treat a friend that way.
Yeah.
Much less my partner in marriage.
Yeah.
So Jacob, with a lot of disrespect and inconsideration. So I believe his feelings and his behaviors, his actions came with merit. They were warranted.
Okay.
Because Haley, I don't fault her for not being attracted to him and not feeling, that romantic, warm, fuzzy feeling. I don't blame her for that. Those are her feelings. They're uniquely her own, and she has a right to them. And thank goodness she did feel that way because I feel the exact opposite about my Jacob. I would love to be with him. But since she didn't, it was even more important to be nice. It was more important to be kind because why would you add disrespect on top of the rejection? The rejection is bad enough. She wasn't feeling the connection. Yeah. And she couldn't help that part. That part she could not help. But how she treated him, she could help. That was within her span of control to be nice, to be kind, to be considerate. And when you are dealing with a situation where you are rejecting someone, it is more important to put on those kid gloves and handle them gently where you don't want to cause harm. But if you don't care about the person and you don't care about their feelings, then you do what Haley did. And you just act like an inconsiderate person throughout the whole experiment.
Yeah.
And that is why Haley got the negative reaction from viewers that she got because she just wasn't kind. She wasn't considerate. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, I agree. You make a lot of good points. But in Hayley's defence, do you think the combination of the fact that the man she was matched with wasn't what she thought she wanted or needed, the type of guy, his personality or his interest in the 80s or whatever, his meat diet, all the different things that he brought to the table, she might have thought, look, this guy's not really what I was hoping for. And add to that, she's got the pressure of the cameras, producers walking around. She feels like she's in a fishbowl, basically, and just to sort of protect, and she can't leave. And just to protect her sanity or to give herself some personal space, she maybe thought she wasn't being disrespectful to Jacob. She thought she was just trying to give herself some me time, some alone time, some preserve her own mental health,
Nice try, Shorey. Guess who left? Chris left. So that blows your argument right there, sweetheart. Sorry. Chris left. Hey.
Yeah, that's true. How did Chris manage to do that? Because I read there were things you had to stay. I don't understand how Chris could leave like that. Yeah.
And see, this is what we all thought, because you sign a contract, you sign on for the duration of the experiment, but yet we saw Mr. Chris come and go at will, and this is how horribly Paige was rejected. Anytime this man did not move into a free, fully furnished apartment, okay, he didn't have to pay for that apartment. He didn't have to do a credit check, lease agreement, down payment, security deposit, none of that. He had that apartment free and clear, fully furnished, and he refused to move in.
Yeah.
Now, he came and went as he pleased. Chris was not truly part of that experiment. And even on the plane ride home from the honeymoon, he took a detour. He didn't go back to Atlanta. He went off to Chicago.
Yeah, that's right. Is that where Mercedes lives, or why did he go there again?
He said his family is in Chicago, but to me, that means that's where the ex-fiance. Well, that's what it meant to me. That's what I decoded the message as, because why would a grown man want to run to his parents when he has a home and a business to get back to, and now a wife?
Yeah.
What did he need to go to Chicago for? He left because he did not want to be with Paige. So if Hayley felt this overriding, overwhelming compulsion not to be with my Jacob, Chris already blazed the trail. So it's not like she was stuck and she couldn't do this and couldn't, because we saw Chris do it. That excuse is out the window because Chris disproved that.
Yeah. I read somewhere, I'm not sure how true it is, but I read that the contestants have not just a pay contract, but there's almost like a fine mechanism built in. If they don't stay for the duration of the filming and fulfill their obligations, they can be forced to pay back the production company. And that's a smart way to make sure that they don't just leave and say, okay, well, I go home, I quit. So they had to stay for the 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it was. Now, you know how we can discuss it later, maybe how much money you think Chris had or doesn't have, but maybe his financial situation made him feel confident enough that he could say to the producer, well, look, I'll pay the fine, I don't care, I just want to go home, I want time off, I want out of here. And because of that, maybe the producers gave him some a lot more leeway and sort of said, okay, you can come and go as you please and just let us know when you're back and we'll start filming again. But by contrast, Hayley maybe wasn't in that financial position and didn't want to have the fine or the penalty, clause. So she felt she had to stay. And imagine being trapped for 6 weeks with someone where, from her perspective, she decided by day 2 or 3 that she didn't want to be with him, I don't think,
But here's the thing. A contract is a contract. Haley signed the same contract that Chris signed. The difference is, yes, Chris did what he wanted to do, but Chris is the reason season 12 got high ratings. Okay? Chris carried that season on his two shoulders.
Yeah.
Because without Chris, the audience would not have been as engaged, as enraged, as outraged, as vocal, as interactive. Chris lit season 12 on fire. So he was season 12. So yes, he could come and go as he pleased. But if Haley wanted to, she could have at least made the attempt. Haley wanted to be on camera. Haley wanted to be on TV. Haley wanted to be part of that experiment. She just didn't want to do it with my Jacob, but she wanted to be where she was. And even if she did leave, we know Haley would have come back to be with the women every time because, I mean, where the girls are, that's where you'll find Haley. So, you know, I don't give Haley any excuses because there is no excuse for being mean, rude, and inconsiderate. There is no excuse for that. Haley made choices all along the way, from beginning to end. She made choices, and her choices came at my Jacob's emotional expense, and I don't appreciate that. And then on top of all of that, she showed no accountability. If you hurt somebody and they're in pain, you can't deny their pain because you don't want to admit that you caused it. That's just not how life works. And Haley showed just why she's been around the world and still can't find a husband. She showed us why for 7 years she hasn't had a meaningful, deep relationship. She's shown us why she is the Susan Lucci of her group of girlfriends. Let me tell you, they're keeping her as a bridesmaid in those weddings as a joke. She's a running joke. And every woman knows exactly what I'm talking about. Every woman who really, really wants to get married knows that there's only a certain number of times that she can be a bridesmaid without her being a joke, without her becoming the butt of all jokes. Have been a bridesmaid over and over and over and over again. And everybody knows you want to get married, and you've been walking down the aisle as a bridesmaid with all these different men and all these different weddings. You know, where they're bridesmaids, there are groomsmen. Okay? So you've been walking down the aisle with all these different men and all these different weddings, and you've been at all these different receptions, and you still couldn't find a man in the pool of all these different groups of men?
Yeah, I agree with you. It does seem strange why she would take so long, why she can't manage to meet a guy with all those groomsmen that she met at those weddings.
Men get Haley's negative energy because Haley is attractive. She's in great shape. She's a nice, when she's in the mood, she's a nice person. She seems very friendly and outgoing, but Haley has some major character flaws, and to me, Haley is at her best when she's around a bunch of women.
Yeah.
Just like I think Ryan is at his best when he's around a bunch of men.
Yeah, I think you're right there. He sort of, when you combine the not wanting to have sex and then the some of the things, he doesn't seem to speak up as well. She'd ask him why you don't want to have sex or how long it's going to take, or do you love me yet, or how do you feel, things like that. And he wasn't really good at expressing how he really felt. Now that can be a concern moving forward because, take for example this vow renewal, this big expensive event. If he doesn't want to do that, when the fact that he's a bit sort of doesn't speak out enough, that could be a problem because he might just say, okay, Clara wants to do it, so we'll do it, even if he doesn't like it, and that could cause problems in long term.
Exactly, and here's the thing. To your point, this whole spending time planning this vow renewal, I think that's a distraction. It's a distraction from Clara and Ryan working on how they really feel about each other and how they really relate to each other and what their real true level of compatibility is. So if we could just get busy planning an event and put all of our time and energy and effort and our resources into planning this event, we won't have to focus on what we should be focusing on. Not planning an event, not focusing on a ceremony, but planning our lives together.
Yeah, exactly. And say they have kids. Once they have kids, they're going to have a lot of activities, projects, things to do. You know, birthday parties, catching up with friends, weekend sport for the kids, taking the kids to church or to sport, having fun and growing and learning. And they're going to be busy all the time. They don't need to manufacture this new project, the Wedding Mark II, as well as the expense. It's just it's an unnecessary commitment of time and energy, and at the end of it, I think like a week or even a few days after this wedding number 2, they're going to have they're going to think to themselves, was that really worth it? Was that worth it all?
Absolutely, because they're going to find themselves in the same position they found themselves in after decision day.
Yeah, exactly.
They
exactly.
decided to stay together. Now what?
Yeah, that's right.
How do we really feel about each other? Brian had not even told her he loved her. So how do you come up with, we need to renew our vows? Live up to the first ones you took. What do you renew? Everything is new to you right now. So what is there to renew? And more than once in this Where Are They Now episode, it was mentioned that this vow renewal was Clara's project, and Ryan was just there to support. Clara said, this whole ceremony is my thing, and Ryan is just there to support.
Yeah. Now, if she likes doing the craft and the decorations and all those aspects of weddings, and that's maybe part of what's motivating her, maybe she should look at setting up a wedding planning business using her profile that she's gained from the show. That could be successful.
Slow your roll. Slow your roll, sweetheart, because, and I say this with all due respect to Clara, because I do like her. During this episode of Where Are They Now, Clara showed us a bit of her handiwork when it comes to the world of arts and crafts. And I have to say,
I think I know where this is going.
No, she doesn't have a future as a wedding planner or decorator. No, sorry, sweetheart, because Clara took some empty wine bottles. She painted one black, she painted one gold, and she stuck a white paper candle in the bottle and said that was going to be the centerpiece with, I guess, a small wreath of flowers around it, a small ring of flowers around it. So she said they would get the flowers from the florist, but her centerpiece was an empty wine bottle, painted black or painted gold, because it's New Year's Eve, so your colors would be, black, gold, and white. Those traditional New Year's Eve colors, with a white paper candle in it.
You weren't impressed?
It did not look very nice.
Yeah. Even if she didn't do the crafts herself, though, she could network with dress companies, florists, people in the industry, and she's got this big profile now because she was a star of this, or one of the stars on this show. She could immediately get a lot of business organising maybe weddings, events, and become an event coordinator, planner, things like that.
It's a job. She's got a job. I think she's an airline steward.
Yeah.
And I believe
she is. She's a hostess. Yeah.
She can't plan weddings. That is all encompassing. That takes a whole.
Oh, but I'm saying it as a new career. She could retire from the airline. She said she likes projects. She likes doing projects. So this would be a project, a new business, using her newfound fame from maths.
Wedding. Should be trying to figure out if her man is heterosexual or not. That should be her problem. Okay. I say it in a joking way, but honestly, all these arts and crafts, these are all distractions.
Yeah.
Okay. she has a man right there with whom she is married.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really truly know how he feels about her.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It is a distraction. I agree. And that's unfortunate that she thinks it's the right path to go down with having a vow renewal so early on. I mean, normally people wait 5 years or 10 years, don't they, for vow renewal? Sometimes 20 years. Sometimes people don't even do it. But after 6 months or a year, it seems way too early. But the point is about setting up a business. It's sort of like utilising the profile she's gained from Married at First Sight and her profile, especially in Atlanta, and she's came across as a likeable person and Ryan's likeable. They could potentially launch a business where she gets endorsements and sponsorships and connections with all different wedding industry providers. It could be very good for her.
A whole bunch of things instead of this vow renewal. I mean, there are a whole lot of things she could do, but I think the most important thing that Clara needs to do is get some clarification about where she stands romantically with her husband, because after this vow renewal, Clara and Ryan are going to be right back to square one.
Yeah.
They're going to be stuck with each other and trying to figure out how they feel about each other. And we can't look to them to have kids and be busy with the kids, because Ryan has said that they're going to take things at their own pace, which means don't look to them to do the normal things that couples do. And he said that having kids was definitely at least a couple of years off. So we can't even look to them to have kids in any time in the near future. So, you know, it's things like that. And when a new couple that jumps headfirst into this type of experiment tells you off the top, don't look to us to have any kids, that is training us not to have the expectation where we would normally naturally have the expectation.
Yeah, you make good points there, Denise. On that same topic, but applied to a different couple, could we move into discussing Brianna and Vincent? Because Brianna wanted to have them years down the track, but she seems to have changed her mind and maybe is ready to have kids sooner now.
She totally flipped.
Thanks for tuning in to our discussion of Married at First Sight. Where are they now? This was only the first episode. Please be sure to watch part 2 for our continued discussion. And don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.